Okay. All right. You are live. That's what it said. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to leave this stream up. So, where do I begin? Where do I begin? First of all, I'll say this about myself. I stumbled across this. This wasn't planned. I need to get outside and water my flowers. Put my, I got to water my flowers and plant kale and lettuce today. I chart out my day before. I plan out my day so I know what I got to do. I got to write 3 invoices. I got my list right here. I'm managing myself quite well. Anyway, wasn't expecting to do this live, but I thought it was kind of necessary, at least to express myself. I should say that I fell upon this. Not a big deal. None of this is a big deal. An opinion is like an asshole. Everybody's got one, right? But I listen to a lot of people. I like hearing different perspectives. And so this is a perfect combination of a stream. I have a curiosity. It comes from my foundation, my growing up, being immersed in different environments so that I can learn. But I listen to everybody, y'all. I listen to everybody. I listen to all kind of people. I listen to people I disagree with. I listen to people I agree with. I've listened to people who have strange philosophies or new ideas I never heard of. I like to explore. This book I have, it talks about being alive, being awake, being in the moment, like really living, present, being present. And part of being present, it includes being curious. There's a lot of things to be curious about in the world. And I'm a very curious person. So that's part of being alive, is trying new things, listening to new things, being open, not stuck and stagnant, right? So I give an example real quick, just fast before I get to what I'm saying. I went yesterday and I said, I'm going to try something new. And I had a choice of El Salvador food, where I was on the GPS, Honduran food, and Nepali food. And I said, I'm going to try it. Who knows how it's going to work out? Who knows how much it costs? Who knows what it's going to taste like? I don't know. Hold on a second. But I went and tried Nepali food, and it was terrible. It was terrible. I've eaten a lot of food across the world. It was terrible. It's the worst food I've ever had. It tastes, I would say it embodied poverty. It was terrible. It was terrible. But I had it. I experienced it. Now I know I don't like Nepali food. Time to try something else. Moving on to Honduran food. Understand? So I'm the same way when it comes to ideas. I'm not stuck and stagnant, but I do like things that are practical, things that make sense, that are logical. But anyhow, I stumbled across because I listen to people I disagree. I love to listen to all kinds of people. I read all kinds of books, and I listen to Fox News. I listen to the BBC, right? I watch all kind of media, Russian media, Al Jazeera. I look at all kinds of media across the world. I take in lots of different perspectives. Okay. And so that means I listen to a lot of diverse voices too. I'm curious what different people have to say, how they see it from their standpoint. And you don't have to commit to anybody's particular way of thinking. I listen to Nick Fuentes, right? Not listen to agree. I listen to understand what a white male like himself who lives in America may think. I don't have to be offended. That's a choice. It's called emotional intelligence. And so this thing, you know, I've been watching BGS for a while, and I'm interested in politics. I'm not interested in the gender war. I think that shit's stupid. Past 35, if you ain't found nobody yet, just be single and be happy. Or try to figure out get you a cat or dog or something, It's not working out for you. That's all. It's okay. Everybody don't have to be married. That's a privilege if you're lovable. Okay? If you're not lovable and nobody wants it, then you just be single. It's okay. It's okay. Nobody owes anybody to be married or have a relationship, sex or otherwise. Opposite sex doesn't owe anybody anything. So I'm not interested in gender warring and all that type of shit, right? But I listen to Nick Fuentes. I listen to, particularly online, I listen to Ty City. I listen to Charlie Kirk. I listen to quite a few white men, all kinds. And I'm discovering more and more. Some of them are very extreme, but I listen. I stopped listening to Roland Martin. He's a perspective you can hear. I listen to Don Lemon. What does a black gay man think? Right? Who has the media's ear? All kinds of things. I listen to Candace Owens. I listen to all kinds of things. I take in all kinds of perspectives. I don't have to digest them, but at least I have the ability to hear and process and see the world through different people's eyes. That's the whole point. The whole point. But BGS, I told him a long time ago, he's a curious character. BGS has this ability to get people's attention. He has the ability to keep people. I would like to call him, to some extent, something between a healer and a warlock, a witch doctor. Because he's got something that I'm picking up on. I always have picked up on. But he doesn't necessarily use it the way you might think someone would. I told him that a long time ago. You got these healing abilities, but you don't use it for healing. You use it for something else. And for whatever reason, he chose to call himself a master teacher. And that's the thing, too. I won't speak on the healer part. I see how he could help people heal. He could empower them. That's an option. But mostly he shows them how many different ways the world is not going to work out in their favor. And that's the opposite of healing. It's like a dog chasing its tail. You don't even know why. You're never going to catch it, but you just keep doing it. That's how I see telling people their downfall is certain. Why does the rose want to grow from concrete? Anyway. So I'm not going to make this really long and not make it all deep. But I will at least give a little bit of background before I go into what I'm going to say. I came on BGS's channel because I heard that he was talking about, on some other channel I was listening to, 100 Days of Trump. I like politics. So I figure, I'll go and listen to it. So this morning when I'm driving, I'm totally ready to hear his perspective on Trump. He says he don't like Trump. So that's a perspective, right? I think it's a bit objective because you're not in love. You're not a MAGA man. So I can hear you different. I can hear you in a more balanced way. Anyway, and I'm sitting there as I'm driving, I'm listening. And I was like, wow. I was kind of disappointed. Not totally, but it just really dawned on me. He was supposed to do a stream about Trump's 100 days, but his ego got into the conversation. There's some guy who's chirping away in the chat. He's chirping away in the chat. Why is he chirping? BGS starts talking about drugs or something in Los Angeles. I got the clip right here. I'm about to play it. He starts talking about that. And the person is holding their ground. And you can tell BGS is getting agitated because his answer His experience and his knowledge is the only knowledge. That's what I come to find out about BGS all this time. He gets very anxious. You can hear it in his voice. He starts stuttering. He gets upset. He gets emotional. If he thinks that anybody, okay, if he thinks that anybody is trying to speak and be heard and be right or have their own independent opinion or perspective, he's not having that. Y'all, that's problematic. He gets very upset, and so he challenges the person. He starts talking crap, calls them pedestrians, and he has all these different ways. Use your brain, use your brain. He has this way that he has framed it so that he's the only one who has the knowledge, and everybody else is pretty much stupid. This idea of master teacher, if you're not a master teacher, the use of words is not lost on me. The title is not lost on me. I get it. But I think that one of the things that is unfortunate about BGS, I talked about that healer part. He could use his powers. He has them for good, but he uses it to show people their doom. And they keep stuck. They stay stuck. They stay stuck mentally. They can't move. They're moving into depression, deeper depressions, right? That's the healer witch doctor part. But this part is the teacher part, claiming the title master teacher. Master teacher based on what? Based on what? And I'm just going to say, you can listen. I was coming there to listen to politics. I wasn't coming there to hear him drag somebody. Well, the first move, BGS, if you watch him long enough, he comes from, I'm going to critique his teaching and his title of teacher. That's what I'm going to do. And I don't want him to respond. I don't want any attention. I just want this to be something to think about. When you take on a title, you need to embody something fully. You need to become that thing. Now, one interesting thing is when he started talking about crack, right? He always called himself a self-taught chemist. I think I fucking know what he means now. He and this guy were bragging about who was the bigger drug dealer. I thought, what a strange conversation. I came to listen to the 100 days about Trump. First 100 days. That's what I came for. I didn't come to hear about drug deals. I have no relation, no background with drugs. None. I've not done drugs, not sold drugs, not been around drugs. So this was like off-putting to me. Anyhow, what he did is he had this guy and he thought, because he's always trying to figure out how to stay on top. And this is where the insecurity comes in. That's the message I want to say today. You want to become something, become it fully. Commit to it. Spend the time and the energy, get the skill sets. And then you don't feel like an imitator. You don't feel like an imposter. And therefore, you don't feel like you have to tap into your ego all the time. BGS is always riding his ego. And I'm just saying it's the ego stops him from being that which he desires to be. He takes on titles but does not embody the thing. Like a healer. You teach doom. You don't teach upliftment. Right? He doesn't claim healer. I'm saying that. When it comes to teacher, BGS does not embody teacher. Definitely not master teacher. And I'm not saying this is a put down. I'm telling you what I see. Because he feels like an imposter, he's very, very insecure. And he doesn't think that he can be wrong. Because a master teacher in his mind cannot be wrong. A master teacher cannot be taught in his mind. A master teacher must be the only one. And in order to make sure that you're the only one of all the knowledge, you have to put people down. You have to discredit them. You have to challenge all their ideas. And there's a whole lot of strategy he uses. I've been paying attention. One thing that BGS does is he asks you questions, broad, general questions, that he only knows his so-called answer to. He won't allow you to ask questions. But he asks these broad questions. Like, for example, you're going to hear, what happened in 1980s, in the 1990s? That's a very broad question. A whole lot of shit happened. Why don't you be more specific with your question? But if you start to ask, well, what do you mean? Answer my question. He cuts you off. He's jittery. He's stuttering. He gets loud. He overtalks. He asks you random questions, machine gun questions. He wants to control the narrative. He wants to control the questioning. And a lot of times he's the only one with the right answer. So that's supposed to discredit you because you didn't give him the answer that he had in his mind. These are all strategies to prove that I'm the smartest person in the room. Well, let me say this. As an educator and a teacher, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You know what a master teacher is? I'm a master teacher. You know what a master teacher is? Someone who facilitates, gives the experiences, lays the groundwork for teaching and learning as a community. You are the architect of learning. It doesn't mean you have to know everything. You don't need to be the loudest mouth in the room. Matter of fact, the background I have in education, I was trained that the less talk you do as a teacher, the more the students are learning. That's what I was taught. So I'm going to go into this before I start playing some of this clip. I'm going to play some of this clip because I'm going to demonstrate. This is called a demonstration. Okay? You got to have something based on something. It can't just be you just talking out the side of your neck. I'm going to show you. And I only got an hour to do it. So let me just give a real brief understanding of where I'm coming from when it comes to BGS and this idea that I have to be the loudest in order to teach. I have to be the only one. I have to ride my ego high. I have to peacock and put others down in order for me to be the master teacher. See, he's got a Ford model idea of learning and education. It's one way, right? There's one model and it fits all, and you got to put this part on, put that part on. That's not right. That's not teaching and learning. That's how you make machines that don't think. Ford model, Ford factory model. That's old. I submit to you that the new and most progressive forms of education have everything to do with cooperative learning. Teaching people how to teach themselves, letting them know that their experiences, experiential learning is the top tier. Learn by doing, learn by immersion. You have authentic knowledge as an individual that you can learn from and get more information and add to. It is authentic. You don't need to discredit people's experiences in order for you to be a teacher. I want that to be understood. You don't have to be the only one with the right answer. There are lots of answers. Okay? So let me say this. You develop as a teacher what you call a pedagogy. A pedagogy is a series of ideas, a framework from which you operate as a teacher. I'm going to give you mine real quick, very quickly. This was built up over many years. And let me say this, when you are authentic, because you have the skills, because you worked many years doing the thing, learning the thing, immersed in the thing, I am an educator because I learned how to teach. I learned the art of teaching formally. I'm not going to go into how many degrees and how many years, it doesn't matter. I have mastered the art of teaching. And I teach a community, and I'm part of that community, right? I facilitate learning. We build knowledge together. Notice the difference. It's not top down. I'm the only one with the answers. That's not how intelligence is built. That's not how problem solving or critical thinking functions. It doesn't work like that. These are old, past, lost ways of thinking. It's not progressive. It's not liberal. It's got to go. I am the biggest one, the only brain in the room, and the rest of you are stupid. Come before me, children, and take in my knowledge and my knowledge only. I am the way and the light. Come on, man. Are you serious? Are you fucking serious? 2025. You gotta pick up some new skills, pick up some new knowledge. I'm gonna give you some. I am a Foxfire method teacher. I have my framework based off of Paulo Freire. He has a book called Pedagogy for Liberation. A Pedagogy for Liberation. This is one of the fundamentals of my educational background. I believe that you have to liberate people. It's about democracy. It's about everybody mattering. And if your citizens don't have freedom of mind, the ability to critically think, you don't have citizens. My pedagogy also comes from Education Reform by John Dewey. He has a book called The Philosophy. I'm sorry. Hold on one second. No, he has a book that focuses on critical thinking, but John Dewey has the background. He has a whole lot of books, but he's an education reformist and a philosopher and a psychologist. And John Dewey basically brought critical thinking and understanding the full scope of something. Theory of inquiry. That is the foundation. The theory of inquiry. I need to inquire, to be curious, to learn, to understand. Okay. Experiential learning I got from John Dewey. Very deep shit. Learn by doing. Become a thing. Do it. Understand how it works. Embody all the skill sets, the knowledge. Immerse yourself. Inquiry. Not someone telling you, not reading about it, not theorizing, but become a thing. Okay, give an example. I want to, and we have this in a lot of modern education. It's a lot, right? You have a biology class. Well, what do you do when you're learning about biology? You get a microscope. You actually look at cells. You cut cells and you look at them under a microscope. You learn by doing. This comes from Dewey. Okay. Stop sitting and having someone lecture and talk to you, tell you. You know now because you did it. You saw cells with your own eyes. Okay. You want to be a writer? Well, you got to go write. You got to learn interview skills. You get skill sets and knowledge that let you become a thing. Learn by doing. Okay. So John Dewey, Paulo Freire, Pedagogy of Liberation, my professor, Professor Hilton Smith. Okay. He's authored. He's a intellectual. He's contributed to the body of knowledge. Okay. And there's Elliot Wigington. Practical teacher, been dead. Okay. But he actually did what I'm talking about, which is experiential learning. Experiential learning. Real kids, real students. This is how I've taught all this time. I was trained this way. So that's my background. Okay. Because I'm not going to sit up here and critique somebody and then I can't tell you my own pedagogy, my own framework, where I get my stuff from. Here we go. This is BGS attempting to be a teacher. But in order for him to be a teacher, he has to put down and discredit this other person's experiences. Now, it's so strange because they are arguing. I'm going to play it in a second. They are arguing because BGS calls him up. I need you to hit the link because he doesn't want the guy to say that he also has the same experiences. BGS's argument is that he was a drug dealer in Los Angeles. Okay, two black men arguing about being drug dealers. So strange, but this is what it is. It's supposed to be about 100 days of Trump. That's what I'm there for. But I can't help but notice. It's so strange. And he can't take this guy in the audience having an opinion. All of these guys who listen to him, they bow down. You the master teacher. Whatever you say is right. If you change your mind, it's right. No matter what you say is right. They don't have minds of their own. They're cultish. And that's why I say he could really be healing people. Okay? Especially weak-minded people. He could be healing them. He could be teaching them up, up, up. But that's not what they get. They get doom and gloom. In 1,000 ways you're going to fail. And nobody cares about you. You're all alone, unfortunately. But listen, this guy, he thought he was, listen, that's one of the things that he does. I have 30 years experience and knowledge. Because see, that means that you're better and that you know more. All these things that he does is always to push people down and lift his own ego. This is not the characteristics of a teacher. Teachers build knowledge together. I'm going to demonstrate some of this ideas once we go. But this person says, I was in Detroit during the crack era. I was selling drugs too. And then it became a dick. My dick is bigger. Your dick is smaller conversation. Just come up here. He says, but drop the link. Just come up here. He's upset. He doesn't want to be challenged. This, I would argue, is not the characteristic of a master teacher. A teacher is not threatened by the pupil if someone is a pupil. Teachers don't have problems learning from other people, especially your students. Do y'all think I haven't had brilliant students? Do y'all think students haven't brought knowledge to me, details? Miss Freeman, did you know X, Y, and Z in 1722? No, baby, I didn't. Tell me more. I want to learn. You understand? That's the difference. Listen.
Perfect. Strawberry in the neighborhood. Yeah. She's Krakow. You guys call them Krakows. We call them strawberries. Okay. Because why you know why they call them strawberries? Okay. It's because a straight shooter. Okay. They didn't have enough money to buy the pipe. They had what they call a straight shooter, and they stuffed they have a straight pipe, a glass pipe. Okay. And they stuffed the crack into one end and light it. That's why they call them strawberries, because that was the straw. What you got?
Hold on a second. Hold on 1 second. What you just heard was BGS attempting to establish facts, his street credibility. If he had, in my opinion, if he had a sense of like, I have formal education, I can teach, I know how to teach, and he was actually teaching instead of just giving his opinion, which is mostly something you better not challenge because he's always in his ego and he gets very upset. He does not want anybody to have a different opinion than him. I think if he had formal education, he knew how to actually teach people. I don't think that he would always feel that he needs to over assert himself. I don't think he would feel that, but he has to. He has to put people down and he has to challenge them because they have no knowledge and he's the only one with the knowledge. And I just think this is flawed. You can't teach like that. That's not a teacher. It's not a teacher. A teacher can switch positions. They can say, ooh, let me be. I see an opportunity for me to be a student. You have knowledge I don't have. Teach me something so I become greater. You understand? When you're not operating out of ego. So he has to explain how a crack pipe works and something about how you call it a strawberry because you put your crack directly in the pipe and you smoke it right there. I don't know what that means, but he's trying to establish street credibility. He's talking very rapidly and he wants to prove that he knows something about crack. Here we go. Here we go. The guy finally gets up there. Listen.
Yeah. How old are you?
Did y'all see the first trick? How old are you? Now, he's not just asking that for any reason. He's asking that because that's the first way you can discredit somebody. So imagine if you're a teacher and your students are always younger than you. What does it matter? I was a teacher and I had students that were 35 when I was 25. What did age matter? They were my students in my class. They were older than me, had more experience than me. You have to, as a teacher, teach people who are younger than you a lot of times, but you will also teach people who are older than you. I even had a lady in my class that was 55. That was interesting.
Yes, me and you had this conversation before. How old are you? I'm 60.
I'm
65, man. You know what?
You're 60 and I'm 65. Notice he has to put some kind of supremacy, some kind of judgment because he needs to know what angle to go at. Had he been younger, I'm sure he'd have been like, oh, you don't know nothing. You didn't live through. He wanted to know his age because he wanted to show you weren't even alive in the 80s. You were in diapers in the 80s. What he did not know is this guy was going to come up and actually have lived through the 80s, through the crack era. They're arguing about the crack era. But his first job as a master teacher, right, who's the only one who's the smartest in the room who knows anything, it has to be to discredit the person on site. And he starts with your age. He's going to tell him, you don't know nothing about crack. You weren't even born. But this guy happens to be 60 years old, but he still overasserts himself. I'm 65. You're 60, right? Here we go.
You know what? I was working, okay? Before they started rocking the stuff up, my partner learned how to rock the shit up from his brother, who's a chemist, okay? And before they start selling crack on the street, okay? Crack was not a thing until they started rocking up. Freddie Ricky started selling it, making it for him and putting it in that form, because before you had to rock it up yourself at home, okay? I was an adult when that shit happened, okay? I was a fucking adult.
Well, shit, I was right there with you. I was in Detroit.
Dude.
But I was in Detroit, though.
Dude. Where did it start?
It started.
So here we go. And I'm a teacher, so I'm just listening to all of this. My teacher ear was on. I was like, what is your point? This man has an actual he was BGS was in LA during the 80s and he saw the crack era. This man who was in the audience, he done pulled him up on the channel and wants to confront him because he has to be the only one in the whole damn space with any knowledge. Nobody else can be smarter or have any knowledge or anything they want to assert unless it absolutely 100% agrees with the only person in the room with a brain, which is BGS. Everybody else is dumb. You're a sheep. You can only listen and follow. Okay? So that guy was from Detroit. And he said, well, man, I was going through the same thing with the crack. I was selling drugs in the 80s. And BGS, well, I was selling drugs in the 80s. But I was in LA, and that's the real place. So now he has to do the supremacy. LA was ground zero. You wasn't in ground zero. So you don't have any valid, real experiences here. Y'all, these are two black men talking about selling crack. Imagine. Oh, my goodness. But notice how he has to discredit everybody all the time. Just notice.
But shit, I don't know where it started at. I know it kind of took off everywhere at the same time.
Dude. It started in Los Angeles, in my fucking neighborhood.
All right, well, guess what? It got picked up in Detroit.
I don't care. I don't care. Okay, you know, because guess what? Because remember the Bloods and the Crips.
I know about the Bloods and Crips.
You know why I got exported to the rest of the country?
Go ahead and tell me, brother.
It's because.
Notice the strategies. Just pay attention. My neighborhood, and only my neighborhood, was the real place where it happened. Everywhere else was not. It has to be me. I'm authentic, you're not. Notice now we start the questioning. Do you remember the Bloods and Crips? You gotta defend your street credibility, right? If you don't have knowledge of that, then you don't know anything. And then on top of that, he starts the questioning. So let's listen to the questioning. He's gotta put him down and act like this man don't have no authentic experiences, and it can't be valid because it didn't happen in BGS's neighborhood. It happened in Detroit, so crack wasn't real there, I guess.
The gangsters in the neighborhood, right, running around, okay, their mamas are trying to save them, so they sent them back home. And guess what they started doing when they got back home?
Go ahead and tell me.
They started selling shit on the street because that's how they made money.
Right. Same thing in Detroit. They picked up Detroit. We started selling it from. I never did heroin. I just did weed. I went from weed to crack. And crack was crazy. They made me stop selling that shit because they tried to put a bullet in my head.
Dude, okay, I'm telling you, okay. You know, I'm telling you, Freddie Ricky Ross is from my neighborhood, dude. That's where
I believe you, but I'm just saying.
That guy said, I believe you. He's not trying to discredit BGS. He's trying to assert he has his own experiences with crack as a person who used to sell crack. He has experience in Detroit. He's just trying to explain his perspective on things from what he experienced. He said, I have real experiences. BGS's only goal is to discredit this man. You have no street credibility. If you can't answer my questions, if you don't know what I know, if you're not a certain age, if you're not from a certain place, you don't know anything. Only my experiences matter. Only my experiences are valid. And all I'm saying is that this is an example of when you do not have formal, actual skill sets and educational background, and you're trying to be a teacher. You do it the wrong way. You're misguided. Now, had it been me, and I know I have a whole bunch of people in my audience who may not be aware and may want to learn something, I would have been asking him questions so that he could share more. I would have been interviewing him. Well, I don't know anything. See, this is where humble comes in and ego goes out the door. A real teacher, a master teacher, I'm being honest with you, formally trained, you want the greater good. You want a learning community. This is a learning moment. This is a learning opportunity for every listener. BGS is not taking advantage of this. This is how I know he just don't have the skills. And because he's not formally trained as a teacher and he takes on this title, he's highly insecure. You can hear the frustration in his voice, the agitation. He's you know, his voice is unsteady. He's talking rapidly. He's about to stutter. He can't keep his thoughts together. He's agitated. He's afraid that someone might have an authentic experience. Somebody else just might have more information about something he doesn't know about. So he wants to guide the conversation towards LA's crack. Fuck Detroit's crack. That's all this guy's talking about, his own experiences. He even says, I'm not trying to discredit you. I believe you. That's not good enough for BGS. He needs this guy to feel stupid. And I would argue that teachers, master teachers, that's definitely not what you do. Your students should walk away feeling that they contributed information and knowledge for the greater learning community. So what I would have done in this situation is I would have simply said, wow, Detroit. Okay, so you're from Detroit. Yes. So what did you experience? And you know what we could have did? We could have did a compare and contrast. Oh, was that your experience? Oh, that I had that experience too. You see how you connect? And everybody's learning stuff. Not that we need to learn about crack in LA versus Detroit, but that was a compare and contrast. That's a Venn diagram. If he had to know what a Venn diagram was, he could have did a compare and contrast. And everybody could have learned about the 80s and how Detroit, Black community was affected by crack. And we could have also simultaneously learned how BGS had his stories and his experience and how the Black people in LA were affected by crack. Okay. You have two Black men who could have had a dialogue, building together, ciphering, comparing knowledge, constructive conversation, so that everybody who was listening would have been more knowledgeable. And that's what I'm telling you. That's not a master teacher. That's not a teacher. A teacher knows a teachable moment. He doesn't. He goes into his ego. He goes into his insecurity. And he proceeds to try to attack anybody who he perceives may have a little more knowledge than himself. Listen.
You and I know what happened. It got so out of control. The bodies were dropping everywhere. That's why it turned into a civil war among Black folks.
Dude, LA was the murder capital for about good 2, 3, 4 years.
Detroit's been the murder capital ever since then. They never came off their list. I'm proud of that. I'm just saying it caused so much damage.
How big is Detroit?
Do y'all hear him struggling?
All right, Detroit ain't big as Los Angeles, but yet and still, Detroit is the blackest city, the big city in America.
But see, what I'm saying is, you telling me shit that I saw happen from the fucking ground up.
We both saw the same experience.
No, you didn't.
You may saw a few years before me.
Do y'all see what I'm talking about? Hold on one second. Do y'all see what I'm talking about? No, you didn't. He has to discredit anybody who has a little bit of knowledge, just a little bit. No one's allowed to have an opinion. No one's allowed to have an authentic experience. No one is. This is not the moves, the foundation of teaching. This is not how you do things. A teachable moment was there and he didn't recognize it. He fell into his ego and his only thing is to attack him. You can hear, no. He's just, you, basically, you can't know anything. You're not me. He's having a fit. This is not a teacher. BGS, you got to go and give formal training to be a teacher. You're missing the whole point. You're taking on a topic, a title that you don't know anything about. As I talked about experiential learning, this man is telling you, I have sold drugs. I was in Detroit. I experienced it. Instead of you giving him an opportunity to give knowledge about what he experienced, he knows. You want to steal it from him. Imagine how that works in a school. If a student comes, a young kid, middle school, elementary, and they say, hey, teacher, I just went fishing and I caught a trout. Well, how big was your trout? Your trout wasn't bigger than my trout. Well, what lake did you go to? Oh, well, you didn't go to my lake, so your lake was no good. That means your trout wasn't anything. Well, you didn't really go. You didn't even fish. That was a failure. You didn't fish. You don't know anything about fishing. You see? Do you see? Teachers are born, not titled. Let me go forward.
I saw it from the very beginning, dude.
I believe you. I ain't taking that from you. I'm saying we caught that on a couple years later. That's all I'm saying.
What I'm saying? Okay, the thing is, I don't talk about my history. Okay, my partner. I don't know if you remember. What's his name? That wrote the book Dark Alliance. Okay.
Yeah.
And see, that's the next thing. That's another strategy. He starts referring to books and articles. Have you ever read so-and-so? As if this is a way to discredit. If you haven't read this one particular article out of billions of articles, then you don't know anything. Oh, you haven't heard of that book? Who knows? BGS might just make up some of these books just to throw people off, right? Did he read the book? Anybody can have a list and title of books, right? But he always has to discredit people by throwing up an article or a book he knows you probably never heard of, that hasn't been your particular interest, and this is supposed to discredit you.
Okay, I have been hearing a long time ago because I'm a KPFK advocate about Bill Clinton, George Bush, the Yamina Airport, and them flying the fucking drugs in. We have been knowing the CIA has been flying the fucking drugs in. Okay.
No doubt. I believe that.
From the late 80s, no, not from the late 80s. What I'm saying is,
notice the student keeps saying, I understand. I believe you. I understand. Okay. Not one point did this guy ever say, you don't know anything. He never challenged BGS. He only asserted that he had his own experiences that he desired to speak on about Detroit. This is so interesting to me. And it scares me because I think about if someone who had this same behavior were teaching colleges or teaching middle school, God forbid, elementary. Ooh, that would warp a child. We always say that no answer is a bad answer. No answer is a stupid answer. We find a way to work in whatever you contributed to a response. But this guy can't get any leeway. It's almost like somebody telling your kid, you're no good. No, that's just not good enough. You're never good enough. You're not good enough. That is not something a teacher. My teacher ear came on. I'm listening for the 100 days of Trump political commentary. But what I ran across was someone who has taken the title, stolen the title of teacher. And their only goal is to set their ego and intelligence above everyone else. That's it. And the discrediting and attacking and putting down people and telling them that their experiences are not valid. That's not something a teacher does. It's not. That's the opposite. That's my point here. That BGS claims the title of master teacher, and he does all the opposite things that teachers do. Good teachers, master teachers.
Found out in the 90, right after the 92 riots.
He's frantic.
Riots, we found out, okay, she had been flying the cockpit. Maxine Waters and stuff had walked into the Congress and demanded that the CIA director come to Los Angeles and find out why this shit was, why they targeted Los Angeles and put this crack in the fucking neighborhood.
I know. I watched on C-SPAN. I watched Ricky Ross stood up and made his statement, which is kind of crazy because he was a part of it.
I was there.
Okay, you was in the audience. I was watching on C-SPAN.
You was watching on C-SPAN. I was there.
See, you got to downgrade the student. You got to downgrade them. They're saying, "Oh, I understand. I saw it on TV. What you're saying." So BGS does the name dropping. He gets details. He gets all this stuff, hoping that you're not familiar with it. This guy says, "I am familiar with it. I saw it on C-SPAN, but I was there." You do not have to discredit the student in order for you to teach.
I was front and center, okay?
I was front and center.
I was front and center for this shit, man. My whole adult life, watching strawberries, all of a sudden it'll pop up on the street, okay?
When New Jack City was based off Detroit, the Chambers brothers created New Jack City because they were doing that on the east side of Detroit. We're taking over those apartment buildings. So that was based off of actual events that went on.
You remember the movie Battering?
Do y'all hear the stress? Remember, he is so afraid for someone to look authentic. He is so afraid for the student to have knowledge. He is so afraid for someone to have a real experience and something to contribute. This type of person who's sharing, teachers love, actually. Real teachers, we love students that bring real knowledge, experiences, and we build on it. We say, "What? Wow, can you tell me more about this?" Well, what is your experience with? We ask questions so that everyone can learn. We create learning communities. That's what teachers do. We want everybody to grow and everybody to feel like they have something to contribute, especially people who have specific things that correlate to what you're talking about, right? BGS doesn't like that. It's so strange to me. I was not coming for this so-called engagement. I was coming just to listen about Trump.
It might not the movie, but the song "Battering."
I remember that song.
Okay, basically, okay. The reason that crack really exploded in Los Angeles like that is because right, they were actually expanding the freeway, right? They were actually remodeling the freeway right down near Figueroa, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And so because they were actually buying up houses and leaving them vacant.
Yeah, I know. That's same in Detroit.
So what happened? Okay, where you think they learned this shit from? So what happened? So what happened is what they started the Freeway Ricky and them started buying up houses right along that corridor and selling crack out of the houses. That's where it started.
Right. In Detroit, they didn't have this amount of house. They were just abandoned. People just moved in and take over and made it a crack house. And it got so bad that they were selling. You would walk down the street, you see a crowd. You think it's a fight? No, it's a crowd. It's a guy in the middle of the crowd selling crack. That's how out of control it was at one time.
They wouldn't allow that shit because the LAPD cracked down on that shit. Okay.
Yeah, well, it got really out of hand in this city, and the bodies was dropping left or right.
Anytime there's money, there's gonna be bodies. Okay. I saw this shit from the ground up. Okay.
It's a different though. It's a difference though.
The thing is that what we found out, okay, which why you should go. Have you seen the series Snowfall?
I seen bits and pieces of it.
See, he's just trying to discredit him. This is what LA would have done. The guy's just sharing his experiences in Detroit. And instead of BGS just appreciating, this person brings knowledge and information about the 80s during the crack era from Detroit and how it affected the Black community. Instead of making that teachable for all people, asking the guy some questions, being humble, They could compare and contrast still, but you could do that in a way that everybody's learning if you're a teacher. You don't have to beat the student and punch him in the eye to prove that you're the teacher. You don't have to do that. It's called teaching and learning. You actually know how to extract more information. That's a skill of a teacher. You extract, you go deeper, you allow others to speak. As I said, my philosophy when I was a teacher, my pedagogy, the more I'm talking, the less my students are learning. Facts.
It's hard to, 'cause I live there. I got away from that shit.
Dude. You unless you lived in LA, you didn't live it, dude.
I lived in Detroit, but I ain't living there. It's the same thing.
Ooh. Did y'all hear that? You didn't have experiences. Unless you, boy, I can't even rewind it back because I'm scared my little finger gonna go too far. Did you hear that? Rewind it back.
No, it ain't. It's based in Los Angeles.
Right. It's Los Angeles. I give you that.
Unless you were in the hood and got bussed out to a white area, you didn't live it, okay?
You thought what? You talking, brother, man. Detroit will have 1 million people in the city.
You didn't live it, dude.
600,000 people left. And we took over and opened up crack house left and right.
Did you get bussed?
Hell no, I got the Marine Corps. I got the hell out. I put a bullet in my head.
No. Did you get bussed when you was in elementary school and middle school? Did you get bussed?
No, I didn't. I missed that.
In other words, you didn't live. You didn't. That's why I said if you go watch Snowfall, okay? If you go watch.
So now, if you don't watch Snowfall, which is based out of LA, you don't know anything. Because LA is the only place that was affected by crack in the 80s. Anything else doesn't matter. Only my neighborhood. And not only my neighborhood. You can only have an authentic situation and speak on crack if you are from my neighborhood, from LA, and you got bussed to a white neighborhood. And you had to watch Snowfall. Y'all understand what I'm saying? People take on titles and they don't have the skill set. And I would argue that BGS, if he had formal education, he wouldn't feel so insecure. And he'd have the skill set to actually teach. There's no telling how many times he misses teachable opportunities. There's no telling how many times, because he's the only one who can be the provider of information. He has all these Black men who have authentic experiences. They have something to give the world. They have something to say, but they can't say it with him. Why can't they have voices? Why can't they have authentic experiences? I'm just saying. And this is why it's problematic that you have grown men going to other grown men. The time for mentoring and learning was when you were a child. I'm being honest. This idea of adult men mentoring other adult men, I don't think it's a good idea. You know, in a lot of cultures, they have bat mitzvahs and all kind of different rites of passage. And those happen when you are in your formative years, when you're 9, 10, 11, 12. The ceremonies of a lot of different cultures, the transition from child to adult. This is when you need the guidance. This is when you need the support, when you in your formation, becoming who you need to be. So you have a struggle here when you have adult men who have their own egos, their own insecurities, and they're pressing their own insecurities, lack of skills onto other men. They're going to discredit them, tear them down, take their voice. It's not good. It's not good. Life is lifelong. I mean, learning is lifelong, right? But you have to be a real teacher. It comes from deep, deep down inside of you. You have to have a love of building knowledge. And you understand that you are not the source of the knowledge. You create the landscape for learning. You set up the opportunities and you guide And you also know that you don't have all the fucking answers. Do you guys know how many times when I was a teacher, a student would come and say, oh, I read this book, so and so and so. It's a book I had not heard of. They read all kind of comics and weird shit. And they would try to relate it to what I'm teaching with Romeo and Juliet. Right? And I would take that moment and I'll say, well, which character is so and so? Because some of the other kids heard of this shit. Manga. I think it's called manga. They didn't heard of some of this shit. I don't know what the fuck they talking about. Oh, and the other kids like, you're right. So-and-so's character is just like Romeo. Yeah. And the kids start building knowledge together. They're talking about some Japanese cartoon shit. I don't know and don't give a damn about no Japanese cartoons. But the kids are feeling what he's saying. That's like Romeo. That character's like Juliet. That character's like so-and-so. That's the Montagues. That's the Capulets. He's helping build knowledge. And the kids are digging it. They're getting it. And their faces are lighting up. And I'm like, can you bring that in? That's the next thing. Let's go deeper. Can you bring it in? Bring it in so we can see it. Teach me about it. Teach everybody. And those who are already familiar with it, they're loving it. They get a deeper level of Romeo and Juliet. Now show us how that's different. What happens differently in this manga cartoon storyline than Romeo and Juliet? So now I got them comparing and contrasting. We're extending the knowledge. The student is the source of the knowledge, not Miss Freeman. That's okay. Everybody's learning. I learned some shit. My students taught, man, my students have taught me so much shit. I'm open. They taught me so much. They taught me all kind of hood ass shit that I didn't need to know. My students have taught me a lot of vernacular. I remember one time, I didn't clown myself a couple times asking about some shit. I had a student, I ain't gonna lie. He said something about you gonna fuck around and you mess around and get a tea bag. And he been talking to me, talking to this girl. I didn't know what the damn tea bag was. And I kept hearing it. And, they know you don't know because you don't respond. And they kept saying it. Anytime I've learned that with teenagers, when they keep repeating some shit and you see other people looking at you in the eyes and you're not responding, they keep looking at you like, damn, you really don't know. They neck snap. Like, did she pick that up? I always ask after, I try to ask after class. I say, hey, y'all, what is a tea bag? I said, what? They've taught me all kind of shit. They've taught me a lot of technology. They taught me all kind of stuff. Students are a source of knowledge. Every teacher knows that. Every person who is your pupil brings their experiences. They bring their background, where they come from. You can't come from where they come from. They got something to offer everybody. Their walk of life, their perspective, their thoughts, their opinions. The shit has value because it's not all about you. You find that out as a teacher. Guess what? When you let people talk, you'd be surprised when you have a teaching and learning community, how many other people relate to the person who's sharing, and it ain't you. They're taking it in. They start relating. They start making connections, okay? Let me continue. I'm almost done. I got to get to the garden. But BGS is frantic. The idea that someone has something to contribute is just tearing him up. He's got to discredit this person.
Watch it. His life mirrors my life almost exactly, okay?
Well, outside the bucking part, I missed that.
No, the reason he started selling cocaine, he was selling to his boys out there, getting his kids, selling to his boys out in the valley.
Shit, we're something to the folks in the plant. We had to go that far.
You're not listening. Okay, the thing is, I worked blue collar job, right? The dude, right. my boy, before crack was a thing, right? Okay, crack was not sold on the street. Okay, back in 81, 81. Okay,
right, like 80 people.
And that's what.
He's so frustrated. He's so frustrated.
You know what, man?
I understand what
I'm talking about. You didn't live it, okay?
I don't live your. You're right. I don't live your.
I know how it went down because, in other words, my boy, because I had a group of friends, right, that worked with me, okay, they get paid. Because you get paid every 2 weeks where I worked, right? Would get paid, they'd be missing 4 days. Why? It's because they would get together, they buy, you know what an 8-ball is, right?
Yeah, I know what an 8-ball is.
They buy an 8-ball, and my boy would go crack it up for them, and they'd be gone 4 days, okay?
Yeah.
And Free Ricky said, okay, since this is the form that they like to have it in, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna crack it up in the house and sell it off the street. And in '83, that's where he got it from. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not disputing anything you're saying. I'm just saying, by the late '80s, early '90s, it got out of control. It was a bloodbath out here.
I'm asking you, okay? What was the price of cocaine in 1979, 1980? What was the price of cocaine per kilo?
I never dealt with cocaine.
Now he's asking him about cocaine. Dude didn't clearly say he sold crack. I got to discredit you by asking you about something that you don't know anything about. I'm not going to play anymore. Y'all can go listen to it if you want. I was listening. It's on the screen. It's 3, Bill O'Reilly and a couple of people. They're supposed to be reviewing 100 Days of Trump. Stephen A. Smith and what's his name? This guy from CNN, I forgot his name. But it's supposed to be a balanced panel. That's what I was trying to, see the commentary. And I was interrupted in the stream by hearing these 2 black men arguing. And it was really a one-sided argument. And I said to myself, I'm a critical thinker. I'm listening. And I'm like, what is BGS's problem? This man is not discrediting anything BGS is saying about himself. He's simply adding to the knowledge about what the crack era did to the black community in the 80s, but in Detroit. But BGS has to tell him you didn't sell drugs. You aren't valid. You're not authentic. You didn't live this. You don't know anything because you didn't come from my neighborhood knowing who the people I know who sold crack in LA. You can't live this. You didn't live this. You have nothing to contribute. My teacher senses came on. And I saw simply and plainly a person who's taken on the title, right? Because a teacher's supposed to be high and full of knowledge. But that's not anymore. A teacher facilitates learning. A real teacher, a master teacher. We build on the knowledge of others. Our students are great teachers. Even when students have it wrong, that's still teachable. Okay? That's the danger of not having formal and real education. You don't get the skill sets. You don't develop a pedagogy. A pedagogy, as I have said, I talked about mine. A pedagogy influences how you interact. What are your goals? Are you speaking to be heard because you have an ego? Are you speaking to be the only one who's right? Is your voice the only voice that matters? Are you there to let people know how stupid they are? At the end of this, I'm not even going to play it. He tells the guy to get a brain. Get a brain. When you get a brain. How are you a master teacher when you don't have a pedagogy that embraces the knowledge of others so that we all can learn, including yourself? I'll say this in the end very quickly. My pedagogy is based on a pedagogy of liberation. Reference Paulo Freire, a pedagogy for liberation. My professor, my lead professor of the Foxfire Appalachian Mountain teaching method called Foxfire comes from Hilton Smith. The practical teacher who I learned from through his knowledge of experiential learning is Elliot Wigington. And John Dewey, a philosopher and psychologist, he is the foundation for my pedagogy with critical thinking, understanding, and we need to have a theory of inquiry as it relates to teaching and learning. You learn by doing, you learn from experiences and the experiences of others. And I'm also influenced by Bell Hooks in Modern Era. She has a book called Teaching Community. Teaching Community, Liberation through Education. This is my pedagogy. It is not upon me or anybody who teaches to put others down, to discredit, to attack, to show them that their voice and their experiences have no value. This is not the tradition of constructive education. All right. I'm done. I got to get to the garden, Ashe. Y'all have a good day.